Everything the light touches is our kingdom.
Isaiah 32. Behold, a king shall reign in righteousness, and princes shall rule in judgment. And a man shall be as an hiding place from the wind, and a covert from the tempest, as rivers of water in a dry place, as the shadow of a great rock in a weary land. And a man shall be as an hiding place from the wind, and a covert from the tempest, as rivers of water in a dry place, as the shadow of a great rock in a weary land. And a man shall be as an hiding place from the wind, and a covert from the tempest, as rivers of water in a dry place, as the shadow of a great rock in a weary land.
Welcome to the kingdom!
Revelation 14. And I looked, and lo, a Lamb stood on the Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his Father's name written in their foreheads. And I heard a voice from heaven, as the voice of many waters, and as the voice of a great thunder. And I heard the voice of harpers harping with their harps. And they sung, as it were, a new song before the throne, and before the 4 beasts and the elders. And no man could learn that song but the 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth. These are they which were not defiled with women, for they are virgins. These are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. These were redeemed from among men, being the first fruits unto God and to the Lamb. And in their mouth was found no guile, for they are without fault before the throne of God. And I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, and to every nation and kindred and tongue and people, saying with a loud voice, Fear God, and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made heaven and earth and the sea and the fountains of waters.
See, this is what we're hoping for. This is part of our hope. Not only that we're members of the elect, with fruits meet for repentance, like John the Baptist said, but from our low estate, because we've been brought low, even though we have this knowledge, we have this truth. Remember what is said in Revelation. I know thy works in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. Why are we rich? Because we're rich in faith. We have this knowledge. So our hope is at our last end, we're going to be increased. Okay? And if you ask me, the greatest riches right now is to be delivered by Yahushua, is to get that new body that the Apostle Paul spoke about in 1 Corinthians, the 15th chapter, to get that. Get that new body where we'll never be sick, we'll be immortals, like it said in 1 Corinthians 15, to be delivered from the coming destruction and to be a part of Yahweh cabinet in the next kingdom. Okay, those are the real riches right now. That's what we want to get. Because if you get that, you got everything. I mean, you got everything. Okay, so our sights are set a lot higher than this present world. All right, as it is written, the fashion of this world shall pass away. We are individuals of vision, and the scripture said where an individual lacks vision, he perishes. Okay, so we can see the future. All right, and we hope that we're going to be part of it, beginning with the elect.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahushua Bahashem, Rakakwadash, and all my honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers. And peace and blessings and salutation to the whole elect out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahushua Bahashem, Rakakwadash, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the whole elect, the believers and listeners whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. All right, so this is another morning news, all right, and prophecy. And what we're going to get into is how this war and technocracy go hand in hand. Okay, and what we're seeing, both of these prophecies begin to escalate, okay, and continue to take shape. As matter of fact, what's this in if a brother want to post that in first Corinthians, we're looking through a glass, darkly, okay, but as things play out, things are becoming more clear, and we're starting to see these prophecies speak, okay, and begin to make themselves more plain, in real time, okay. First Corinthians 13:9, if a brother want to get that, okay. But load this up over here in Jeremiah, okay. But what we're seeing with these two prophecies, because the mind of Esau is to use this war as a global reset, okay, to cause a global order out of chaos, okay. But what the Lord is going to use with this war, all right, he's going to end Esau's empire, okay, and he's going to end, all right, the conspiracy of these heathens, okay, that are plotting with Esau in this new world order. You see, this war is going to end the whole agenda, because this war is going to escalate to Yahweh Shai. Okay, so this war that we're seeing, all right, and this devil attempting this technocracy go hand in hand. These are not two separate, events that's happening. No, these events are joined at the hip. They go hand in hand. All right, now, let's see. Yep, the brother got it. Yep, the water, bro. This the brother beyond Yashala. 1 Corinthians 13:9. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. Okay, so the certain details of certain prophecies, we don't know. But as we see these things begin to speak and begin to happen, the Lord reveals the details of certain prophecies that we're able to go into. Okay, so we know in part and we prophesy in part. But as these things, continue to play out in real time, we're able to go more into depth. All right, the Lord is giving us, more clarity on these things. All right, as they happen real time. All right, now, Yep, exactly, bro. We know the end game. All this jucking and jiving and juking and twisting and spinning. Okay, Esau trying to do. Okay, it's like that nigga. Y'all remember? I know your brothers remember them niggas that you do. They used to have all them handles. Especially in the N1 days. Jay used to have all them handles and dribbling and spinning on his back, but nigga didn't have no jumper, man. And there's Esau. He doing all these moves and between the legs, behind the back. Y'all remember the N1 move? They put the ball in the shirt and throw it around. See how old y'all is, man. Do all them goddamn moves, okay, with no jumper, man. And that's Esau. You see, all that goddamn dribbling with no jumper, nigga. We know you're gonna miss the jumper. You see? Um, but yeah, let's go here to I looked it up real quick. That meaning hand in hand, which is a saying, okay, hand in hand, something is hand in hand. Now you got the idiomatic meaning, okay? It says, idiomatic meaning. It says closely connected. It says, what is the meaning of hand in hand? It says two concepts, actions, or things that are closely linked, dependent on each other, or cannot be separated. Often using the phrase go hand in hand. Okay? So we know these prophecies of war and the MOTB, they go hand in hand. They're directly, all right, correlated. All right? They depend on each other, because the devil, all right, his his mind, the Lord put it on his mind, to start a war for the global reset. And see now, no matter how it's going, no matter what's backfiring, no matter how this devil is losing, okay, he still he too far in. All right, he too far in to turn back. He's invested too much. Okay, and we know, all right, that the will of the Lord is he's hardened, to try to pull this off because of the will of Yahweh Bashim Shai. Okay. So man, it's beautiful, to see how the Lord, has prophecy dominating, okay, the narrative, man. Okay, no matter what this nigga is trying to do. So let's go here to the book of Jeremiah, then we'll get into some things, some geopolitics, and also, how now the devil is shifting gears. Okay. Now when you let's go first. Let's go to Jeremiah 51. Which the brother, posted 46, but I wanted to get a little bit before and after that as well, So let's go to Jeremiah 51 and let's start it. All right, because Babylon, have been the center of this global rulership of the elites. Okay, so the fall of Babylon is the fall of the whole system. Okay, ain't no phoenix. Okay, this whole thing of phoenix, the new world order, arising out of the ashes of this war. All right, a technocracy, arising, all right, out of the ashes of this war. No, it's not going to happen, man. Okay, so let's read this. Let's go here. This is Jeremiah 51 and 44. All right, 144. That 5, goes into power. Okay, and it says, and I will punish Baal in Babylon, and will bring forth out of his mouth that which he has swallowed up, because this American system, the economy and the military, okay, and the culture of America has swallowed up these nations. The elites have used America as what the hammer of the earth. You see, and these nations, have gotten in debt with the dollar. Okay, they've taken on, the culture of America, which has weakened their culture. All right, and they've been under, the boot of the American military. So, the elites have used, this American system to swallow up the nations. Okay, but what's happening? All right, and these nations are beginning to form an alliance to operate outside America to go to war with this war. Because you can't just, go to war and be fully dependent on this system. These nations have been creating these parallel systems where they can operate outside of the American system, okay, which is the system of the elites. You see, and they're going to wage a war with this war, man. Okay, it says, and the nation shall not flow together anymore unto him. Yeah, the wall of Babylon shall fall. And this is what we're seeing. Nations are not flowing to America, man. Okay. There was a time when you had to check in. You had to get down with this American economy. You had to, come under the order of American policies. You see, there was a time when there was mandatory, but see, as the Lord, as we're at the end of this man's empire, we're seeing, okay, Esau lose his grip. You see, and these nations are starting to be emboldened. Why? Because the Lord has the spirit of a mighty man on these nations, man. Let the weak say I'm strong. And he got these nations souped up, you know. And Iran, I listened to Elder Pastor Har, not Elder Pastor Ariomla, so like Elder Pastor Ariomla, the beloved brother Eliasha Wumba. They were doing it in transit, and Elder Pastor Ariomla made the statement how Iran was saying, we thought America was going to be stronger than that. We thought it was going to be way tougher than that, man. So you can imagine, they confidence on 1,000, and that's the Lord that set that up. Okay. So we're seeing, these nations being emboldened because American reputation, they can't get that back. And every time they try to do something to save face, they only look worse, man. Okay. So these nations are not flowing, all right, to come kiss the ring of America anymore, man. These nations like, nigga, war on the table. We'll go to war, because that's the last thing that these nations wanted was war with America, because of the speculation of how America could just, devastate you quick, just overwhelm you quickly. But now they see, oh, it's a blueprint to beat this nigga, man. Okay, Iran just dropped the blueprint. You see, they should have Mosh Taba, I might have to make that thumbnail. Y'all remember that blueprint Jay-Z album cover? I think he was sitting on a desk or something, smoking a cigar. We have to make that with with Iran with Mosh Taba. Okay, drop the blueprint on America ass, man. You see, and these nations are following suit. So this is Jeremiah 51:45 says, my people, go ye out of the midst of her and deliver every man his soul from the fierce anger of the Lord. And that's the elect. Okay, we're being separated before the destruction. See, the Lord awakened us in these last days right before the destruction. Imagine someone come, and shaking you, all right, before a destruction. Imagine you're in the big building, okay, and it's someone that knows that this building is finna be destroyed, and they come and wake you out of sleep so you can get out that building before it's destroyed. And this is what the Lord has done for us in these latter days, man, by awakening, by raising up the prophets, okay, and the prophets is preaching this word, and it's shaking the elect, waking them up to separate, okay, from America, so we don't partake in her plagues, as the scriptures say. Okay, because this is not an actual fleeing. Revelation 18 is us actually going into those chariots. Come up out of her, my people. That's us actually going into those chariots. You see, but this separation is separating from the mist. All right, the philosophies, the mindset. Okay, the rebellion. Okay, because as we've awakened, to the truth, man, it's putting us in good standings with our power before the destruction. So we don't partake in the fierce anger of the Lord, man. Okay, because guess what? It says, my people, go you out of the midst of her and deliver every man his soul from the fierce anger of the Lord, and least your heart faint. So why, the Lord is allowing, this word to go forth, the elect is awakening and separating, you brothers, you sincere sisters are separating, okay, from this world and cleaving to Yahweh by Shema Shai. Well, we will begin to start hearing what these rumors of wars, because the war is the climax. Remember, the war is the climax of prophecy, because the war brings in Yahweh Shai, because Yahweh Shai is coming to end the war. Okay, by putting down all authorities in the earth. Okay, and it says, "And least your heart faint, and you fear for the rumor that shall be heard in the land. A rumor shall both come 1 year, and after that, in another year shall a rumor, and violence in the land, ruler against ruler." And see, now we're seeing these rumors turn into actual violence, because there's been speculation about, there's been rumors, because rumors are circulating story. So there's been circulating stories about, you know, um, America and Iran war for a long time. You know, there's been for decades, there's been speculation about America and Iran, finally, going to war. And now that rumor has turned into violence, actual violence. You see, there's been rumors about, Russia and, NATO. Now those things are turning to actual violence. You see, now, with this thing with the small hats in Turkey, well, eventually it's going to turn to actual violence. So we're seeing these rumors transition into violence, man, because we're going into another phase of prophecy. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, let's all right. That's the point. Let's go. Let's go into some happenings. All right, because we know prophecy has been activated. So when you go into um Ezekiel 38, the major players, okay, are Russia, Iran, and Turkey. Now Russia, Iran already getting busy. Magog and Persia, they already in the trenches with it. You see, they're getting busy. They're active. Okay. Now Turkey has to be activated. Okay. And guess what? The least of the flock shall draw them out. Hey, the small hats tagging everybody into this war, man. And that's their purpose. Cause it ain't like them niggas is a great military, but them niggas just have the assignment of tagging everybody in. Okay, cause they they got skull drug when they went against Iran. Okay, so it's like, nigga, let's start another war. It's like a nigga that's getting the small hats, to explain them in the Middle East. It's like a nigga in a bar that's picking fights and losing. He picked this fight over here, okay, get beat down, and then as soon as he recover, he go pick another fight, and that's all they're doing. But that's their role in prophecy, is to drag these nations into war, because these small hats in their mind, look, we gonna get these nations go to war, we're gonna fall back while they go at it, and we're gonna be the last one standing. You see, no, that's gonna backfire terribly, man. Okay, that's gonna backfire terribly, to where the land of Israel, okay, is gonna get wiped out. Now the difference between the destruction of America and Israel is Israel, which is our land, is gonna be built up. So ultimately, the Lord is gonna renovate that land for us through war. All right, now let's go here. Let's see. Yeah, so let's go into what's happening with Turkey. It's trying to let's go into what's happening with Turkey and understand how, all right, this is prophecy speaking.
Recep Tayyip Erdogan has done what many analysts said was impossible. He has flooded Syria with a staggering amount of military hardware, effectively turning the country into a forward operating base for what is increasingly looking like a massive confrontation with the occupation forces. This is not a drill, and this is not posturing. Over the past several days, satellite imagery and intelligence reports have confirmed that Turkey has moved entire convoys of heavy weaponry across its southern border. Radar systems specifically designed to detect and track the most advanced warplanes in the occupation's arsenal. From the F-35 Lightning II stealth fighters to the F-16s and the sophisticated drones that have become the hallmark of the occupation's air campaigns. Alongside these high-tech systems, Ankara has shipped thousands of small arms, mountains of ammunition, and, most critically, loads of medium-range ballistic missiles that fundamentally alter the balance of power in the region. The scale of this operation is breathtaking. This is not a symbolic gesture or a token show of force. This is a full-blown military buildup, and the occupation forces know it. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the man whose hands are drenched in the blood of tens of thousands of Palestinians in Gaza, has been issuing panicked press releases like a man who has suddenly realized the ground beneath his feet is collapsing.
Israel just stopped a security threat inside Syria from becoming something much bigger. Let's take a look at what happened. Since the Syrian civil war, Turkey has embedded itself inside of Syria. It now has a substantial military presence in roughly 5% of Syrian territory. Now, if we look to the south, where Israel's located, by contrast, Israel now holds approximately 0.1% along a border that has threats from Hezbollah and ISIS and other terror organizations, which means that Turkey, that has no threats, is holding 50 times more Syrian territory than Israel. More than a year ago, Israel and Syria reached an understanding to maintain the security status quo and to keep this border calm. Syria breached that understanding. Israeli intelligence identified that Turkish troops were about to deploy at the Abu al-Dahur air base, which is located in northern Syria, which is less than, as you can see, 200 miles from Israeli towns and Israeli communities. Prime Minister Netanyahu made Israel's position very clear. We will not allow Turkey to entrench itself in Syria and to be moving steadily south towards Israel's border. Israel warned Syria repeatedly, don't do it. We know that Syria received those warnings and that it chose to ignore them. So Israel delivered the message in another way. Now, some might ask, why should Israel be concerned about Turkish forces in Syria? Well, because Turkish President Erdogan has openly called for Israel's destruction. He even said about our closest partner, the United States, that, well, a just world is possible, but not with America. Is this the kind of guy you would want on your border? And October 7th made it clear to everyone. When your enemy tells you that he wants to destroy you, you should probably believe him. Prime Minister Netanyahu has also made something else very clear. Israel welcomes a return to the previous status quo. We are not looking for escalation, but neither Turkey nor any other country is going to threaten the state of Israel.
For 2 years,
Nigga, shut up. All right. So what you have with Turkey and Israel is they're starting to clash over Syria. Now, Israel, we know these small hats. Okay, these small hats. Niggas ain't true Israel. But these small hats, they want this greater Israel project. You know, and that's their mindset post World War III, is that they're going to get the land that was promised to Abraham in Genesis, the 14th chapter, you know, the 14th or the 15th chapter, you know, from the Nile River to the Euphrates, you know, which means that they will have to go into Syria, you know, parts of Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Iraq, you know, to try to fulfill, you know, to try to bless themselves with our land. You know, this whole greater Israel project is this devil, these small hats trying to bless themselves with our land. Okay, and set up and run, you know, the world through a technocracy from our promised land. No, nigga. Okay, but what you have with Turkey used to be the Ottoman Empire. Okay, so when you look at, matter of fact, I should have pulled it up before the lesson. Okay, let's see, map. When you look at the old map of the Ottoman Empire, and Abaratazar, I got some history on that, and we'll tap into it this weekend, and it'll make sense. You know, World War I, you know, makes a lot of sense of certain conflicts that we see right now. So Abaratazar, we can tap into their history this weekend, Lord will. Okay, but you look at the map of the Ottoman Empire. Okay, let's see. Let's pull up a good map. And it was a massive empire. You know, these are Edomites that, you know, had took on, Islam. Okay. But you just look at it, it's a massive empire. Let's see. Yeah, I think it's a pretty good picture there. So let's just look at this picture real quick. So you have, the small hats, you know, wanting to do a greater Israel. And you have Turkey. They wanted to start to take back territory of the old Ottoman Empire. Okay, and this is where the small hats in Turkey are beginning to clash. Okay, so when you go to let's see, here we go, the map. Let's look at this map real quick. That ain't the one. Hold on. Here you go. So look at this map of the Ottoman Empire, and you see the Ottoman Empire had most of Saudi Arabia. It had, it had with Palestine. Okay, it had northern parts of Africa. Okay, they had, Italy. Going towards Italy. All right, but they a lot of Western Europe. Okay, Iraq. All this was Ottoman Empire. It was a vast empire. Okay, but after World War One, all right, they lost a lot of this land in what they call the Middle East, which is Western Asia. Okay, and it was split up, by the British, the French. Okay, then later America came and set up shop. Okay, these small hats were placed in power. British, gave because we always go to the Balfour Declaration where there was a British Parliament, okay, member, okay, that wrote that letter, all right, the Balfour Declaration to, all right, the Rothschild, awarding them the land in Palestine after they took it from, all right, the Ottoman Empire, the Turks, after World War One. So you have, the spirit of the Turks. Matter of fact, brother can post that Proverbs 21:1. So you have Erdogan. He's in the spirit of, getting back territory from the old Ottoman Empire. But then you have the small hats want to do the Greater Israel Project. And that's where we're starting to see them clash, which is activating Turkey for his role in prophecy. And they're being drug out. They're being drawn out by who? The small hats, the least of the flock. Okay, the rat bastards. So yeah, so you got that happening. So let's go from there. Because remember also how NATO is going to turn on, all right, America. When you go here, got one more video, then we shift gears a little bit. Where we at? There you go. All right, this the brother. It's the brother Anah, GMS all in 144, Proverbs 21:1. It said the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord, Yahweh by Shemal Shai. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. So the Lord got these leaders of these different nations all of them are beginning to get ambitious at the same time, especially as they see America fall. They're seeing America fall, all right, which is creating a power vacuum. All these nations are getting ambitious. These leaders are getting ambitious. Everybody going with their move, because America speculation of power, kept a lot of these nations in check for being too ambitious. Okay, but now as America is falling, now, all right, these nations are everybody going with their move. Everybody going with their ambition, man. And we're gonna see more clashes between these different leaders, like the scriptures say, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom. Okay, so we're gonna start to see these egos collide, all right, and it's gonna spill over into war, actual war. You see, and the alliances that the Bible prophesied, okay, are playing out. Okay, now let's deal with this. Well, we know, okay, NATO is eventually going to flip on America because it makes sense. Like even when you look at the logic behind, NATO, all right, the EU staying with America don't make sense, and these nations are looking like, well, damn, if we just cut America, see the conclusion of all these leaders is coming to is if we cut America out, Everybody from North Korea to the EU to Russia to China, Iran, Pakistan, India, even the GCC nation, the Dragons of Arabia. It's like, nigga, if we cut this nigga out and these small hats, we'd be good, which, it's going to be short lived because Yahweh Shai. But let's play this.
Spelled everything out very clearly. It's Russia, Iran, and China as the three potential blockages to American primacy in Eurasia, and then all of these geopolitical pivots around each of them so that they can be somehow brought down with regime change or defeated in war if it happens to be. And I mentioned one of the big mistakes that Brzezinski made, a fundamental flaw of the whole analysis. He said Russia will never be able to.
Now he's talking about Brzezinski, he was an advisor, to different presidents starting back in the 80s. And he played a major part in the fall of the USSR. So he played a major part in it, and they didn't expect Russia to come back like they did, under Putin, which we know it's all prophecy. Okay, the scriptures say the Lord put hooks in the jaws of Magog, and because the USSR collapsing was supposed to be the end of the Russian Federation. They had planned on breaking that thing up and controlling it, the same way that they control America through corporations. Okay, but that didn't happen. Okay, and another a good movie to watch, is called The Wizard of the Kremlin. Now it goes into, the movie is about Putin's PR guy, public relations guy. I forgot his name. It goes into Putin's PR guy, but and the movie started off slow, but once they get to the part where Vladimir Putin goes from the leader of the KGB, which is like the American CIA, to the president, and then eventually the prime minister. Okay, well, from the prime minister to the president, I believe so. But when it starts to, when they bring Putin into the movie, which is about 20 minutes in, it get real interesting. You kind of see how Putin, was moving over there. But long story short, like I said, it's called The Wizard of Kremlin. Pretty good movie. But long story short, they didn't expect Russia to bounce back like they did economically and militarily. But we know Russia got an assignment. That's why Russia bounced back. We can go into the details and this and that, but to keep it short, Russia got a role to play in prophecy, and the Lord brought them back, all right, to be what his chief prince in prophecy, man, all right, to these nations, to these nations that would be allied against America.
Resist this because American technological dominance is so secure, unchallenged. So ultimately, Brzezinski thought American power, not soft power, not propaganda power, not InfoWars or narrative power, but the fundamentals of industrial production and technology, in the end will dominate. And that we know is not true. But the second point that he made was the big risk is that China, Russia, and Iran will get together. And then he says in 1997, no American will let that happen. And of course, that's exactly what America has done. I think it's deeper than just a tactical response of the three of them facing this American hubris. I actually think that the fit in Eurasia is a very good fit, thank you, that China and Russia have a natural economic complementarity. By the way, just like Europe and Russia have a natural economic complementarity. Europe is resource poor and highly densely populated. Russia is low population density and resource rich. And that means a great complementarity to put the two together. Europe could have thrived on that basis. Europe has cut itself off exactly from that. So the same complementarity applies with Russia and China. And that relationship is not going away. It is a mutually beneficial economic relationship. And the same is true with Iran and China. And the alliance of the three, therefore, makes very big sense. And then even more than that, if you look at Eurasia, east of that line, basically from the longitudes of the Middle East all the way to the Pacific, with the bit of a complexity about India and its place in the global geopolitics, all the rest will coalesce into an economic unity of Eurasia that makes a lot of sense. And Europe will find itself out on the far western periphery, cut off from its natural trading partners, Russia and China, and finding that the United States ain't no friend. And that's what Europe doesn't understand also, that Europe has put itself so squarely into a corner. It's geographically in a kind of corner, but it put itself geopolitically into a corner by its naivete and kind of corrupt vassalage to the United States. And if the Europeans would read Brzezinski, they would see that they were already regarded as vassals back 30 years ago, and they have become even more so today. So where is it all heading? The biggest hope is that the publics of the US and Europe are sick of this. It's not to their advantage. Our societies are hurting. They're divided. There are so many problems. Their infrastructure doesn't work in the United States. It's failing even in Europe, where it was always kept to a higher standard. But now, apparently, I haven't ridden on German rail recently, but people are telling me that it's unimaginable what is happening right now to even basic services in the European side, as these fools like Merz proclaim that the goal is to prepare for war. So I think the publics are disgusted, and maybe it sounds naive, but I don't give up on
democracy through. But yeah, so the points he was making, all right, was that the NATO is starting to see, that these European nations, because NATO is just a military alliance between America and the EU. It's another branch of military, to where they have a standing military in that region, that can aid, all right, the empire's imperialism, which is America, man. Okay. So what you have with these EU nations is they realize, like, well, shit, we ain't nothing to America. Like, they like, America can't protect us. Okay. Trying to adhere to these sanctions and abide by all these sanctions that America is doing nothing for our economy. Is hurting us, because it will make way more sense to just have a pipeline come from Russia, go through Ukraine and Poland into Europe. They can get far cheaper gas. Okay. They can get natural gas as well, not just oil. Okay. They can get oil and natural gas. Okay. Which will be far cheaper. Okay. It will be quicker to come from Russia than try to get gas, get oil and energy out of the Strait of Hormuz. Okay. And then when you put yourself at the mercy of American decision making, they're suffering, man. So it's like, no, they're starting to lean towards Russia and China. Okay. Russia and China is making sense to everybody. Okay. And America and these small heads are becoming isolated. Okay. So everything is playing out exactly according to prophecy military. So the war is locked in. The alliances that the scriptures speak about, they're all aligning. Okay. Everything is locked in. NATO turning on America. That's in motion. We know which way it's going. We know Turkey and small hats, they're going to intensify, and Turkey going to go their way toward the chief prince. All right, Russia. All right, the EU nation, they're going to see war with Russia wouldn't make sense. Okay. And they see that America can't protect, and see the EU was postured up against Russia because they thought America could protect them. They thought America and NATO could protect them, but now they see that there's a facade. Okay. We're going to see them scurry and slither towards Russia, man, and eventually shoot nukes on America, man. Okay. So everything for the war is in motion. Now it's on these devils. They gonna have to come on and collapse this thing. They're gonna have to bring the crisis. They're gonna have to do what they gotta do to enforce this technocracy. Okay. Now they gotta come with it. All right. No matter how the war going and how certain things are backfiring, they still gotta come on with this technocracy, man. All right. They still gotta come with, all right, the collapse. Okay. And now what we're starting to see is these devils now are hinting towards going ahead and pulling the plug on the dollar, which is pulling the plug on the global economy. So let's play this, because now with with America saying like, okay, we're not gonna go, you know, missile for missile with Iran, okay, because they see they can't do that. So they saying, well, we're just gonna strangle Iran economically, and any nation that do business with Iran, they're not gonna be able to use the dollar. Now, what makes the dollar valuable, okay, what keeps the dollar propped up is the false demand for the dollar, okay, through what? Through petrol, through oil, you see. But as America doesn't control, you know, they lost control of the strait, so they don't control the energy. So now these nations are having to do other things to get energy, which caused them to go away from the dollar. Now, what we're starting to see, all right, America, you know, pivot, okay, is to go ahead and pull the plug on everything. You know, it's like you know, it's like you know, losing a video game. You just unplug the whole system. You see, which no matter which way these devils go, they gotta fulfill prophecy, man. Okay, so we're seeing, you know, America hint towards, you know, just pulling the plug on the whole economy, you know, by these, you know, so-called what they call the doomsday, you know, the D-Day of sanctions that they're finna put on Iran, okay, and anybody that still does business with Iran. Okay, so let's play a little bit of this.
And again, this is very serious because people need to reflect on it, because Besant was talking about basically decoupling the world from the dollar. He said, you will not benefit from the dollar regime. Vladimir Putin once famously said that it's not Russia that backed away from the dollar. It's the dollar that backed away from Russia. And BRICS has long said that they're not looking for an alternative to the dollar, that they would prefer a world where the dollar was the reserve currency as long as it functioned fairly. But what Besant is doing right now is backing the dollar away from BRICS, backing the dollar away from the world. The way that the dollar stops becoming the world reserve currency is when the United States doesn't allow it to be used as the world reserve currency. And people need to understand what the ramifications are. What is Scott Besant saying? Do you understand what happens when we are no longer the petrodollar? When we delink the dollar's existence from a $100 trillion global energy economy? Because that's the thing that allows us to print money. The reason why we can hit print and print out $1 trillion today is that it's just a small percentage of the overall, you know, dollar pool out there because of the global economy. But when the global economy is no longer measured in terms of the dollar, suddenly $1 trillion on the printing press becomes, you know, 1,000% of, you know, our what we can afford to do, and it changes everything. This will destroy the United States. What Scott Besant is proposing will destroy the United States.
And that's what they got to do, you know, because the whole thing, the lease was going to collapse the global economy anyway, you know. But you can tell they wanted to do it with full control over the straits. Okay, but even though, all right, they don't have full control over the straits, all right, they still got to collapse this thing. Okay, no matter what these devils, all right, they still got to collapse because they got to go forward to the next phase, man. Okay, which is to bring the crisis, you know, because in order to bring the order, they have to bring the chaos. So they got to bring the chaos, man. And America economy is going to suffer the worst. It's going to be a global global collapse of the economy, because everything is pegged to the dollar. So when the dollar collapses, everything collapses. But what these nations, and especially these nations in prophecy, these nations that the kings of the east, Ezekiel 38, all these nations, okay, have systems to where they can still function even during the collapse. Okay, because why? They have an assignment in prophecy. So the Lord has, allowed these nations to set up a system outside the dollar to where they can still fulfill their role in prophecy, which is destroy America. Okay, so they have these, these parallel economies in which they think they're going to segue into the new world order from these parallel economies, and that's when Yahweh Shai comes in, okay, and destroys, all right, the ambition of these nations to move forward with this new world order. Phase one is destroying America. Okay, so these nations are in position. They have everything they need economically and militarily to destroy America. Okay, but then as they think they're going to segue into the new world order, all right, minus America, you see, that's when Yahweh Shai comes in. Okay, so let's go here, because no matter what they do economically or militarily, okay, it's going to eventually just lead to a collapse, a complete collapse, okay, of the economy, in which we're going to have.
You're invited to join Phoenix Energy's next webinar, where you
Stronger today.
All right, so no matter what avenue they take, all right, it's going to be a collapse of the economy, and you're going to have the other prophecy they got to play out with the civil unrest, the Egyptian versus Egyptian, okay, Jacob's trouble, the persecution of the prophet, the famine of the word. All this going to happen within this collapse, so this devil has to do this, you see, because it's prophecy. All right, so no matter what, if he try to go militarily and bully economically, however, whichever way it go, it ends in the same thing. Okay, he got to go through that door, man. So let's play this.
Than they're expending. Iran is stronger today than they were when the war started. That is an absolute certainty. We are far weaker today than when the war. So, if the moment Trump strikes an economic target in Iran, understand this: Iran will take out the totality of the regional energy production infrastructure. And when that happens, the global economy, including America's economy, collapses. They said, Trump's not barking up that tree. That's why, because somebody got to him and stopped him before he escalated further, said, if you do this, it's irreversible. Irreversible. The global economy
and in fact,
yeah, man. So the Esau through. He stepped on his trap. Okay? Esau stepped in that trap, man. America, Babylon. As the scriptures say, they stepped on that. The Lord laid a landmine called Iran. Okay? In this devil's path. And he stepped on that landmine and blew up. And this nigga trying to recover. Okay? And ultimately, he got to do what he got to do. Regardless of how things are going. Okay? He got to do what he got to do. He going to have to crash this thing. So the thing we looking for now is like the blackouts, the, inflation, hyperinflation. However he do it, whether it's through Iran, him striking Iran energy infrastructure, then Iran, taking out all the energy infrastructure from the GCC nations. Okay, it all will lead to a global collapse. So whether they play these economic games and do sanctions and this and that and decoupling the dollar and unplugging the dollar from the system, however these devils want to play it, okay, it's gonna all lead to the same thing. And this is what the devil, you best believe the devil is seeing, like, damn, every move lead to the same outcome. Yes, because prophecy is fully taken over, man. Okay, prophecy is fully taken over. So let's go from there. If a brother could, let's get Isaiah 13 verses 17 through 20, Bible shot. Isaiah chapter 13 verses 17 through 20. So I got one more. Yep, famine, pestilence, come. Yep, they got to come to pass, man. You know. I'll play a little bit of this.
To destroy international relations between countries, to attack free trade. The U.S. created World Free Trade System. It's a U.S.-backed system, and the U.S. is dismantling it. Now, they're the lead sort of actor dismantling it. The reason they're dismantling it, Nima, is because, like petulant children, especially these neoconservatives and Donald Trump, who himself doesn't have any ideology other than power and fame and his massive galactic size ego. But besides that, this layer of the U.S. establishment of the oligarchy is upset because they lost. They lost the era of globalization. And the reason the U.S. lost in the era of globalization, an era they promoted. All of the multilateral institutions, right, the WTO and everyone else, these are British and American creations. But both the British and the Americans did something. They basically financialized their economies and asset stripped their industries, and what they considered to be non-performing sections of their corporations or industry, whatever, are things that turn the smallest profit, like labor. So what did they do? Outsource the labor to China, to Vietnam, to Southeast Asia, to the global South. And did so in exchange for shareholder dividends. Simple as that. Share prices go up, and all Donald Trump cares about, Nima, what does he talk about with the economy? The stock market. That's it. The stock market. That's the index of happiness for this president. That's the only thing that matters. So, but that's a superficial, that does not represent the fundamentals of the economy. It doesn't. What it does is it represents Wall Street's ability to make money by doing nothing. That's what that represents, at the expense of all of the working class Rust Belt jobs that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance put on this whole show with this fake MAGA populism, because they wanted all those votes. They wanted all those Reagan Democrats and Blue Dog Democrats. They wanted them. They wanted them to get him elected in 2024. Make America great. I'm going to bring the jobs home. This is all a show. Now you're seeing the show has collapsed. The show is collapsed. This is the final episode of The Apprentice. You're watching it right now. It's tragic. It's a tragedy. So the whole thing is collapsed. They've lost the war of globalization because Wall Street got greedy. The city of London got greedy. And now they're trying to blow up the very system that they created.
That's all they can do. That's all they can do, man. Pull the plug on it. Okay? This devil, he overreached. You know, with Iran, he stepped into that snare. Okay? Now you're done. You see, every move going forward is a bad move for Esau. Okay? There's no good moves for Esau either. Every move going forward is a bad move for this devil, man. Okay? So let's and if we can put Proverbs chapter 5 verses 21 through verses 21 through I think 22 in the NLT Bible shop. You know. But yeah, this is brother you call Hope for 144, Isaiah 13:17. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. Yeah, so they don't have this leverage over Russia, you know, through sanctions. You know, the leverage, you know, that they once had through being able to sanction these nations, they don't have it anymore. All right, and there's certain nations, and the nations that are within prophecy, all right, that's forming an alliance, okay, to take down the whore. You see, they don't have this leverage. They don't have the sanctions. Don't have this leverage on Iran like it used to. They've been sanctioned for decades. Okay, North Korea, certain sanctions don't hurt them like that. Even with China, even though China is deeply embedded into, the Western economy, but the fact that they have, these allies, okay, that they can still do business with, still get energy from Russia and Iran. Okay, Iran and Russia has enough energy amongst themselves to fuel this alliance. Okay, and then even what we're starting to see in some of these GCC nations, okay, are beginning, to do deals, all right, with the allies of Russia, China, and Iran. Okay, they've been letting Iraqi oil, go to these certain, nations that are in good standings with Russia, Iran, and China. Okay, so what we're seeing is a block, okay, an economic and military block that's being formed just to go to war with America, man. Okay, and fulfill prophecy, you see, and also upset the enterprise of the small hats, man. Okay, because as America's being destroyed, Howard Shah is going to be on the scene. You see, so it's going to be a rapid 1-2. That's gonna remove all heathen authority from the earth, man. It's gonna be a rapid 1-2. The destruction of America, then the destruction of the militaries of the earth. Okay. This is the brother GMS all in 144, Isaiah 13-18. This brother Anah says, their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, these arrows. They shall not have pity of the fruit of the womb. Their eyes shall not spare children, man. The missiles ain't got no emotions, no feelings, man. All right, and they're gonna march to America, likened to the American military. All right, they're gonna march to America and get busy, man. Okay, it says Isaiah 13-19, in Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees, and Chaldees are the elites. Okay, and America has been is prized nation, is prized empire. The prize of Esau's global empire has been America, man. The American system, the economy, and the military. Okay, well, hey, it's reached its end. And the elites, because they play both sides. Okay, in their mind, they're just gonna slither over to, the nations of the East. Okay, set up technocracy, and man. That's why I say Howard Shah gonna break all that up, man. But it says in Babylon, the glory of the kingdom, the beauty of the Chaldeans' excellency shall be as when the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. And how did he overthrow Sodom and Gomorrah? With fire. Okay, and he made it to where Sodom and Gomorrah doesn't exist to this day, which America is gonna be non-existent. Okay, post World War III, it's just gonna be a desert. You see, verse 20 says, it shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation, neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there, neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. Yeah, it's going to be done. All right. It's going to be a desert. That's it. Not going to be inhabited by people. It's not going to be a society. Okay. There's going to be no civilization. Okay. Just a memorial of what happens to wickedness. And that was from the brother Yashima tribe of Judah. So let's see. Let's go here. All right, this from GMS All In 144, Proverbs 5-21. In the NLT, said, for the Lord sees clearly what a man does, examining every path he takes. That's why every path that the devil want to go, it leads to the same outcome. Okay? It leads to the same outcome, man. All right? The Lord got this nigga mapped out. Every move from here on out from Esau is a bad move. Proverbs 5-22. It says, an evil man is held captive by his own sins. They are ropes that catch and hold him, man. So Esau's ensnared in his own wickedness, man. Because the whole agenda is completely wicked. And it's a rebellion against Yahweh Bashim Shai. So the foundation of what the devil is doing is corrupted, man. And all he has done is set snares for himself all throughout the earth. And now he's just stepping into his own traps. You know? It's like putting down landmines and forgetting where you put them. And he just stepping on them all over the place, man. Okay. So let's see. Yeah, that's the point. We'll leave it there. You know, my brothers, I will. Yeah, we'll tap in some more in the morning. So yeah, the Lord will, you know, you brothers. All right, and you few sisters edified once again. We'll give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Rekakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers. And peace and blessings, salutations to the hopeful. Shalom.